Welcome and good evening or good morning. Welcome to our 14th lecture. This one is about nutrition, slow feeding hay, relationship of hoof form to metabolism, and crusty necks and founder. Sorry for that. Before we start, I have added a free webinar on the 26th of August. You have a choice of 11 o'clock in the morning or 8 o'clock in the evening. This is a Thursday. Should be this coming Thursday in a week. And this free webinar is about our courses at Equine Soundness, what we have to offer, and give you an overview, show you a few of the files and what all is in the professional course and the horse owners course, and also give people that are not signed up yet an overview of the September 2nd course. I would much appreciate it if you could help me advertise that September 2nd course. If you or any of your friends want to participate in the free webinar, just send me an email with the time slot that you want to participate in so that I can send you an invitation. Last time I had a few remarks about that I didn't put everything in talking about vaccinations and worming and all these things. In 60 minutes I can only put in so much. And there is much more material, much more in depth in the big course. This here is basically only an overview. And even so, you may learn a lot here, depending on where you are already. It is not something that goes in greatest depth. There's always a little bit more to explore, and I have to take some shortcuts in order to get through. And we will take some shortcuts today again. Because nutrition is something that could fill easily talking about it several days, and we press it here together within 60 minutes. So let's look at a few things that are really important to this. When you are feeding horses, when you're responsible for the feeding, it takes a little bit more than just giving them hay and oats. You have to have, in order to make the right decisions, you have to have a basic knowledge of the digestive tract. You need to know the kind and the quality of feedstuffs that your horse needs, should have or could have. It is really important to know about quality of feed. What is quality hay? What is quality grain? And what kind are there? Can I feed my horse corn as well as oats, or is barley better, or can I feed him wheat? All these questions come up, and they cannot possibly all be answered here in this 1 hour, so we will take only a few parts of it. You need to have a knowledge of the supply that is there. Does your feed store have what you want to feed available all the time? When do you buy your hay? How much hay do you need for the year, and how can you get it? You need to have knowledge of the horse-specific demand. A miniature horse has totally different nutritional needs than a draft horse or a Grand Prix jumper. The demand is also activity specific. Horses that work a lot need more calories to take in than horses that don't work at all. The choice of feeding frequency and ration amount is really important. How often do you feed? How much do you feed at what time? And finally, we need to think, unless you are independently wealthy, which I hope you all are, this is from the bottom of my heart. I like wealthy people. Then you don't have to worry about cost-benefit analysis and storage. You can just buy the storage and you can buy your supplies whenever you want to. And it doesn't matter what it costs. But if it does matter what it costs and your storage is limited, then you have to figure out how much can I store at any given time, how much will that cost me, or if I can't store a lot, what do I have to do financially to get my supplies, and how do I manage this? So these are all the things we have to take into consideration. And there are actually a lot of good books out there, and there's a lot of information about nutrition. I'll just give you a little bit an overview tonight. And that overview starts with the digestive tract. I'll make it brief, and even brief is still fairly long. The digestion of the horse starts at the head. The teeth are designed to erupt slowly throughout the horse's life as they are vital to the digestive process. Precise chewing is normal for the horse. The horse's saliva does not contain any enzymes. The saliva saturates the bolus of food and makes it easy to swallow. In the stomach, the digestive fluids can break down the food bolus further. The saliva may have other, as yet unknown, functions. The stomach is bean-shaped and is relatively small. Therefore, the horse has to constantly intake small amounts of food. It is not possible to regurgitate food that has entered the stomach. That means a horse cannot throw up. Unfortunately, everything has to go in one direction, and that can cause rather big problems. The more saliva is mixed with the food, the better the passing of the foodstuff through the system. Hay mixes with saliva better than concentrated food, as it needs more time spent on chewing it. As soon as the stomach has filled to 2/3 of its capacity, it starts to empty. Stomach fluid is very acidic, so the food mass is very acidic. In the middle part of the stomach, the pH is 5 to 6, and on the exit to the small intestine, it is 2.6, so you see how much more acidic it gets. There is some breakdown of sugars, carbohydrates, and protein before the food enters the small intestine. During this process, lactic acids, gas, and toxic waste products such as ammonia and other substances are produced. The small intestine is 20 meters long and has a capacity of about 50 to 70 liters. 20 meters is about a little bit more than 20 yards. Inside the intestine are finger-like structures which enlarge the surface area. Pancreatic secretions help to break down proteins, fat, sugars, starch, fat-soluble vitamins, and some minerals in order to allow them to be absorbed by the mucous membrane from the wall of the intestine, and from there sent to the liver. The liver is the central place in the body where fat and protein are processed and changed to carbohydrates. Also in the liver, toxic substances are neutralized. The liver serves as a reserve for glycogen, which is used by the body for energy. More than 90% of fat is digested in the small intestine. And we have to also realize here, when we're talking about the liver, that the horse does not have a gallbladder. The horse secretes bile constantly into the small intestine, into the digestive tract. It does not store bile like we do in the gallbladder and releases it when it needs to digest fat. There is bile all the time going into the digestive tract. Roughage-type substances are not able to be digested in the small intestine and pass through to the large intestine without any breakdown. At the end of the small intestine, 60 to 95% of starch is digested. The colon is divided into different parts. We have the cecum, the ascending colon, the small colon, and the rectum. The cecum and the large colon contain millions of microorganisms or bacteria, and these break down non-carbohydrates and crude fiber and non-volatile fatty acids. A reserve energy source comes from this breakdown. The microorganisms in the colon need the correct food for survival. If this is lacking, the colon is unhealthy. The number and type of microorganisms are dependent upon the type and amount of food that comes from the small intestine. The pH of the food coming into the colon affects the microorganisms greatly. It is very important that the colon is healthy, as the horse should get 75% of his energy requirement from the fermentation of the colon's symbiotic activity of the microbes. In the intestine there is a part of the immune system. The intestine protects the whole organism from invasion by foreign microbes. The intestine can activate defensive cells which can travel through the whole body. Cellulose is the food substance that benefits most from fermentation in the colon. Cellulose is the crude fiber from hay. The bacteria in the colon do not like too much starch. Sudden changes in food are dangerous as the bacteria have not adapted to the new food. The change needs to be slow in order to allow the bacteria to gradually adapt. We're going to talk about this again a little bit later. The passage of foodstuffs through the intestine requires 35 to 50 hours, and 85% of this time is needed for the digestion in the colon alone. So the food travels in 15% of the time through the mouth, stomach, and small intestine. Then it takes the rest of the time to go through the colon and get digested there. General horse feeding rules. Let your horses eat from the table, light some candles, and feed them good vegetables and fruits. I'm only halfway kidding. This is a picture that Alexander Nevzorov and his wife Lydia made when they made a movie about horses. So I thought it was very fitting for this lecture. Most important when feeding horses, provide plenty of fresh water. And when we're talking about fresh water, and we talk a lot about toxins in natural hoof care, put the water in your water buckets or in your water troughs with human-grade water hoses, not with the green or black hoses that we usually use. These hoses leach toxins into the water, especially when it is very hot. So try not to use the green hoses. Use white hoses that are human grade. They also seem to last a little bit longer. I'm rather pleased with my white hoses. Ensure your horse has enough feed to eat. Remember, he's a trickle feeder. He eats all the time, and he needs to have enough forage to eat all the time. Feed all feeds by weight, not by volume. A scoop and a flake is not a measure. You should feed your grains by the pound and your hay as well. Have the hay analyzed and develop the rest of the ration based on the forage quality. This will come up if you're serious about nutrition. Having the hay and the pasture analyzed will come up again and again and again. Everybody who's serious about nutrition requires first a forage analysis. Without that, you don't know what else you need, or if you have too much of one thing or the other. But if this is not possible, feed hay that smells clean, has fine stems, lots of leaves, with minimal seed heads or blossoms, and is not damp or weedy. Total daily feed should be about 2.5 to 3 pounds per 100 pounds of body weight. That means a mature horse of 1,000 pounds will eat about 25 to 30 pounds of feed each day. When needed, feed concentrates at least twice daily. The more concentrates you feed, the more often you need to feed them, because this very small stomach cannot handle too much concentrates at one time. Use top quality feeds and choose rations that are balanced to your horse's nutrient requirements. Feed horses individually if possible to prevent aggressive horses from overeating and submissive horses from undereating. Feed at regular time intervals and make major changes in the ration gradually over several days. Do not increase grain feeding faster than half a pound per day. So if you decide your horse is too skinny and you need to feed him more grain, you need to give him every day over several meals a half a pound more. If you change your feed, exchange half a pound of the feed every day for half a pound of the new feed, then repeat that process till all the old feed is gone and you're only feeding new feed. That way the bacteria in the hindgut can adjust to this. Allow horses 1 hour after feeding to digest the meal before forced exercise. Forced exercise is not a leisurely trail ride or a little bit playing on the ground. Forced exercise is galloping and jumping and racing and stuff like that. And lastly, avoid overfeeding. And that's really not easy to do for some people, because horses are really easy to overfeed. They're so cute when they're eating, and they love you when you're feeding them all the time. So, but too much weight is detrimental to them, and in fact, most of our horses are too fat these days. We have started to get an idea about what a good looking horse should look like, And these ideas in general, when you go to shows, you will see that most horses are too fat. And when a horse is of good weight, then people complain that this one is too skinny. And I know there's a fine line between not feeding enough and having a skinny horse, but a healthy horse should show his ribs. Nutrient requirements. With its small, simple stomach and large fiber digesting hindgut, the horse is designed to eat small portions in a continuous fashion. By design, forages should predominate the horse's diet. Grain, fat, supplemental protein, vitamins and minerals are important but should make up a smaller portion of the ration. Ideally, horses should consume a minimum of 1% of their body weight in hay or pasture each day, a minimum. As a general rule, forages should comprise at least half of the total weight of daily feed consumption for optimum growth and development. A horse's nutrient requirement varies depending on its activity and function. Generally, nutrient requirements are presented according to the following classifications: maintenance, work, growth, gestation, and lactation. A maintenance ration allows a mature idle horse to maintain its weight and body condition under average climate conditions. When it is very cold, horses need more feed to keep their bodies warm. When it is very hot, they will automatically eat less. Non-working adult horses can be maintained on high-quality forages without grain supplementation. However, the horse's requirement for energy increases 25%, 50%, and 100% as its work levels increase from light to moderate to heavy. Growing, breeding, working and performance horses require grain or concentrate supplementation to meet their additional nutrient requirements. During the last 3 months of gestation, a mare's requirement for protein, minerals, and vitamins increases. As pregnancy moves through the 9th, 10th, and 11th months, the mare's need for energy increases 11%, 13%, and 20% respectively. Lactation also means additional requirements for protein, minerals, and vitamins. And by the way, it is thundering out there, so if I lose you, I lose you. Then we have to do something else. I don't know what yet. Stress conditions associated with a horse's environment may also affect its nutrient requirements. Changes in temperature, moisture, and humidity, as well as muddy lots with little or no housing, are few examples of situations that can lead to stress. So does trailering, showing being in a different environment. These and other factors can alter the horse's need for various nutrients. How do horses spend their time? About 16 hours a day, grazing and foraging. Horses need a certain length of time for feeding regardless of the amount available. Genetic programming dictates a time frame, and this time frame is a little bit different for every horse. Even so, a horse would probably take 1 or 2 hours longer to graze on poor pasture compared with rich pasture. Horses living on very rich grass and herbs don't stop grazing before the genetically programmed time is up, and therefore they get very fat. Horses living in a field with inadequate nutritional amount will stop looking for food after 18 hours and will lose weight. Stereotypical behavior like weaving or windsucking evolves from lack of eating time or being hungry or being stalled. That's another possibility. So you're looking the whole time at our horses here eating hay out of hay nets, and I want to talk about hay nets now a little bit more than we have before. We talked about it, how to feed hay, but why do we feed hay nets? Hay nets have the advantage of mimicking grazing. Horses cannot just put globs of hay at a time into their mouth, and they have therefore to chew a little bit more carefully, and more saliva goes down with the hay. They are busy longer. This is also very important. And you can put the hay out in larger quantities and really free feed the horses hay. When you put hay out in flakes, if you have horses that are kept outside, then the problem is that they urinate in it and they defecate into the hay and they sleep in it. And it wastes a lot of hay. The other thing is that they really take up hay in gobs and just wolf it down. So when they are eating out of these hay nets, they develop a better way to eat. They graze out of the hay nets. And because you can put it out in larger quantities without wasting any hay, the horses learn after a while, and some of the horses that were hungry for a good time, it takes them a while to calm down and not eat out of these hay nets as if food is going out of style. After a while they quit. Our horses now have all quit to stand over the hay bales all the time. They are okay now. They know that the food is not going away, and this is very important for horses, especially for those who were stalled and were on limited rations. So we like hay nets a lot, and on the Yahoo group there is a file in the file section named Resources for Hay Nets. And that's where you can find hay nets. There are 3 suppliers, and if you want to, you can order yours from any one of those suppliers. So we have these nets. We had them custom made from nylon net, but it turned out they were, for us to resell them, very expensive. Or actually we could have resold them for more money, and then they would have been expensive for you. So we are not carrying them anymore, but the manufacturer is in the US is in the resource file. So is Cynthia Cooper in New Zealand, and I'm not entirely sure that Cynthia Cooper's nets are not just as good and aren't cheaper than what you can buy here in the US. Also the nets from the Swedish Hoof School, which are rather inexpensive, have a slightly smaller mesh here, and that's actually even better, that the horses have to work a little bit harder on them. I expect these nets fully to last more than a year. So you get your money back out of them because you don't need as much hay. We're feeding on the same bales of hay for a long time. So this is altogether a pretty good thing. And again, we keep ours now in boxes. We have throughout the covered area 7 of these boxes, and the horses can walk from box to box and eat a little here, eat a little there. And this is about the best way we could come up with. Overland from the Swedish Hoof School, who has for a long time promoted these hay nets and has tried all kind of different ways, said this is the only way to really do it. Put it in a box and since we have more than one box, they also have stopped taking the hay nets out and playing with them. So much about that. Then about feeding hay. Then we have a few words about feeding bagged feed. Commercial animal feeds, even the best known and most expensive brands, have had their nutrients altered, adulterated, devitalized, and destroyed by heat, processing, coloring, preservatives, and other chemicals. Feeding your animals such food on a regular basis causes waste toxins accumulations in the blood, lymph system, and tissue, which contributes to a weak immune system and renders our animals susceptible to chronic diseases. This was a quote from Dr. Donald Ogden, who is a veterinarian. So basically, unless it is a plain grain, which may be oats or barley or wheat even, or corn, unless it's a plain grain, it's bad for your horse if it comes in a bag. The feed industry is not in this to make your horse healthier. The feed industry is in this to make money. And they can't make money if they use high quality ingredients. Even the ones that brag we're using only the highest quality ingredients, these ingredients still are cooked, puffed, chelated. However you describe this, it is a process that has the nutrients in the feed destroyed thoroughly. And as these nutrients are thoroughly destroyed, what are you really feeding your horse? The same as if you feed your kids constantly Twinkies. There is no nutritional value to this. And even the feeds that are now touted as being low in non-structural carbohydrates, low NSC feeds, they have the same problem. The feeds are also unfortunately contaminated with what they name fillers, and these fillers are like floor sweepings from some other, they're byproducts from some other process in the feed mill. The feed mill puts in the feed every day what is, in every new batch, what is cheapest on the market today. And they only have to, in the United States, the feed industry is not, the animal feed industry is not regulated. This is why we have so much problems with it. And they put things in this, they only have to put a label on how much crude protein, how much crude fiber, and so on is in there. But it's not said what this protein is. It doesn't say this protein comes from carefully harvested whole oats. No, it could come from chicken feed, from chicken feathers, from baby diapers. As long as it turns out in the lab to test as protein, it's fine. The minerals that they put in, and you want to feed a complete feed so that your horse gets vitamins and minerals. But the minerals they put in the animal feed are not regulated either. So nothing guarantees you that the calcium and the iron that they put in this feed are really digestible for your horse and aren't toxic to your horse. You have no control over this. The only thing that you can feed controlled is full grains, where it says on the bag, this bag contains 100% whole oats, for example. There cannot be anything in the bag except for the oats. However, if those oats are not organic, they have been sprayed with pesticides and herbicides, and they have been grown in chemically fertilized fields. So much for good nutrition. So we get to some other feeding programs in a moment. The mantra here is, if it comes in a bag, it's bad for your horse. Let's talk about chronic low-grade inflammation and hoofs. This has a lot to do with nutrition. This has everything to do with nutrition. Close to 100% of all horses we see and know of show some signs of metabolic imbalances in their hoofs and bodies. Those can reach anywhere from simple thrush, misalignments of the hoofs, to severe hoof pathologies such as founder or simply unexplained soreness. Or you can have a horse like this one here with a really thick crest, an extended belly, and not yet any founder signs or lameness signs, but they will come. And these are signs of metabolic imbalances. Metabolic diseases or syndromes have only in recent years received more attention as the number of laminitic and foundered horses has increased. Research is in the process of catching up with the changes we see in the attempt to find answers and cures. Horses who are constantly lame, even with expert trimming, might very well look good. But there are some telltale signs for metabolic disorders that need to be cleaned up before trimming can become a real success. Sarcoids and sweet itch, also known as midline dermatitis, are such signs. So are warts in the ears. They hint on the presence of a generalized low-grade inflammation. Once the diet gets adjusted, there may be fringe benefits like emotional stabilization as well. Horses on adjusted diets where they get all the nutrients are emotionally much more balanced than those who are missing certain minerals and certain nutrients. The same is true for people. A compromised body results from chronic intake of environmental or feed-based toxins and or a diet lacking the correct amount, balance and quality of vitamins, minerals, amino acids, essential fatty acids, etc. When the body suffers from some sort of interference, be it toxins, parasites, bacteria, its natural response is to try to get rid of the intruder. As you all know, this is when the immune system kicks into gear. Parts of this response are inflammation and swelling. During inflammation, blood vessels dilate and become more permeable. As a result, plasma leaks into the tissue. In the case of hoofs, this exudation moves its way into the area in which the corium is connected with the horn. You can compare this to a blister. The horn, the protective aspect of the skin, becomes detached from the underlying sensitive part of the skin. The space in between is filled with fluid. This is why we went through all this hassle with the anatomy, so you know exactly where this is happening. There is very little space for extra fluid in the hoof capsule. Any increase will augment intracapsular pressure and cause compression of the live tissue, including nerves. The result is pain. Additionally, the connection of the hoof wall to the coffin bone is split apart to some degree and weaker now. This allows the coffin bone to sink a little within the hoof capsule, causing increased pressure onto the sole. As a result, the sole concavity becomes more shallow while the corium, including blood vessels, remain continuously compressed. The limited blood flow will diminish the supply of nutrients to the soul corium, thus reducing the amount of building blocks needed to produce sufficient good quality horn. I'm sure that you have all seen so-named thin-soled hoofs. Now you know how they are created. And in domestic horses, most of domestic horses do not have their coffin bones where they really belong, so that the extensor process is at least level, if not a little bit higher, than the hoof capsule. Most are already a little bit sunk, and this is why. The blood vessels are also supposed to bring the components of the immune system to the area in order to keep the opportunistic microorganisms at bay. If this defense system is weak, the fungi and bacteria have a smelly feast commonly known as thrush. Thrush is a feed-related problem, not a trim or wet paddock related problem. Well, it is trim related too, but the two go hand in hand. You can see that healthy hoofs require a healthy body. A correct trim is obviously very important, but we need to address the entire body, not just the hoofs. Couple of things here on this slide. VitaRoyale.com, which is one of the few feed companies that kind of sort of have a better bagged feed. The supplements in the VitaRoyale feed are human grade, and the feed is seed based, not grain based. The components is canola meal, rice bran, and linseed meal. And the only question I have is, here in the United States, where do you buy GMO-free, non-genetically modified canola meal? All the canola is now genetically modified, so I don't know where they get that. That's what I have against that part of that feed. That doesn't mean I haven't fed it for 2 years. I did. So, but on the VitaRoyale.com site, there's a lot of information about feed and what it does, and there are long articles that you can read about nutrition and what to do. This horse here had the typical crest. This is a mare. This is not a gelding. It's a Morgan mare, and Morgans have a little bit of crestier neck in general. But this was how she came, and she was very, very plump and very founded. And this was about midway during the rehab process. And beside the fact that she's standing here much better, she had already lost an enormous amount of weight. The crest had become much softer, and we really worked on the nutrition with this horse enormously. Her owner is a small animal veterinarian and had all the tests done that need to be done for Cushing's syndrome and all these things. So we got this all under control with this horse, and after the midway rehab, she lost even more weight and became she became skinny. And all this weight that you see here is toxic weight. This is from the body holding on to water when it is very toxic. And as soon as you start to detoxify these horses, they start to lose weight, which is a good thing, especially in a founder case, so that you get the weight off of the feet. So let's talk about the other nutrition. There has been an ongoing effort to provide our horses with the perfect balance of nourishment. There are hundreds of artificial, man-made, manufactured supplements and feeds, all targeted to ensure a healthy balance in our horses. Yet there is an epidemic of chronic degenerative diseases and colic in our horses today. This is when we need to step back and look at the whole picture. Obviously, something is wrong. Horses were not designed to consume manufactured products any more than we are. They are herbivores. This word has its origin in Latin and means plant eating. Plant eating. Horses are designed by nature to eat vegetation. Now, if you can't get this vegetation, you can go to the farmer's market and buy vegetation. Wheatgrass, you can grow this yourself. It's easy to grow. Kale, carrots, even the occasional egg does them good. Dandelion, red dandelion, green dandelion. Watermelons are good. And this is so a plethora of organic vegetables at the Whole Foods. I made these pictures at my last trip to California, and they have really a lot of organic food there available. These organic foods are easily provided, or fresh foods. There are specific fruits and vegetables which contain DHEA hormone, digestive enzymes, electrolytes, vitamins and minerals. There are also specific enzymes found in certain fresh raw foods, which assist with joint support and repair, cell reproduction, metabolic support, skeletal support, brain function, digestive enzymes, protein and biotin. This is just a very small summary. Raw foods contain enzymes which enable the food to break down on its own, so the body does not have to work at digestion. The body just needs to distribute the nutrients. Herbs are also an essential part of the equation, not manufactured processed herbs, but actual fresh dried herbs. Herbs have been used by every culture since the beginning of time to assist in healing the body in a number of ways. Animals instinctively know what herbs to search out to assist with their own ailments. And for that you could, if you have your own land, you could on the fence line grow some herbs that the horses would have access to, and you grow them on the fence line so they don't get mowed down, because once you mow them down they do not regrow in the same season. So here we have other foodstuffs that you can feed your horses. Salad, sprouts, these are sunflower sprouts, a little hard to grow, but the alfalfa sprouts are really easy to grow, and zucchini. Herbs provide a large arena of medicinal purposes, and when blended with one another they are able to take on a completely different medicinal purpose. The knowledge of this combination is vital to provide maximum health. Herbs kill off toxic invaders which cause degenerative diseases and chronic issues. They also kill thousands of different species of parasites, fungus and bacteria. The ever-changing variety of fresh whole foods and the correct blends of herbs will provide the optimum levels of health and performance beyond what has been seen thus far. Up here you have a link to lavendersage.com. It's lavsage.com, and I'll tell you about this now. Each horse is a unique individual. Therefore, his needs are also unique. A specifically tailored program needs to be designed to achieve the maximum health benefits. Lisa St. John from Lavender Sage does not use a general recipe or general approach, but creates a custom-developed nutrition program tailored to each horse and their specific needs and requirements. Variety is so important. One cannot expect to be or remain healthy while consuming the same exact food every day. The combination of fresh, raw foods and herbs is the answer to what do we feed our horses. It is so simple and right in front of us. And here, right in front of us, is the generic list of vegetables and fruits that Lisa St. John says you could feed your horse. The problem she's also pointing out with this generic list is if you put your horses on these vegetables and herbs, they may start to detox. And when any organism is detoxing, it may come up with some old symptoms of disease again, and people have a hard time watching this, and then they want to do something about it. So she really offers a good program. It is not cheap by any stretch of imagination, but it is still cheaper than when you have to deal with the veterinarian for all kind of things. So what do you feed the horses? You can feed them sweet potatoes, carrots, apples, bananas, fresh greens, that means salads, kale, almonds, mixed nuts, and sunflower seeds, ground flaxseed, seasonal fruits like melons and squash, and avocados. And the picture you have here are of milk thistle seeds. If you give your horse a course of milk thistle seeds, so about every half year, to detox the liver, and you administer these milk thistle seeds in the feed, they eat them easily, and at the same time feed them a red beet and some yarrow tea. You just steep some yarrow tea and pour this over the feed. It really helps the liver to detox, and you do this for 3 to 5 days. If they're really toxic, 5 days. If they're not so toxic, 3 days. And then repeat this every half a year. That really helps. What do you not feed if you feed fresh vegetables and fruits? Do not feed cabbage. It is very acidic. And don't feed any nightshades. No tomatoes, no eggplants. What else is a night? And no potatoes. Sweet potato is not a potato. It's something else. I'll tell you now at the end what we at our place are doing. So for a while we've had oats. Now we are just feeding sweet potatoes, carrots, apples, pears from our own tree while they're in season, and avocados. When I do feed oats, to increase the calories for a certain horse, I feed organic oats. And I soak them for 24 hours before feeding in water with a little bit effective or beneficial microorganisms. That starts the germinating process and helps to bring out the nutrition in the oat. Grain is very acidic. Soaking it makes it living food. Takes away the enzyme inhibitors that are on the outside of the grain kernel. These enzyme inhibitors the grains have to prevent early sprouting and decay. So when the grain ripens in the summer, it has this enzyme inhibitor on the outside that basically leaves it laying dormant till next spring there come water floods and wash those enzyme inhibitors away, and then the kernel can start to sprout. And this is what we're doing by soaking it 24 hours. We are soaking this enzyme inhibitor away and start the sprouting process. Kirlian photography showed that soaked seeds and grains have a living aura versus the dry stuff. That fits very much into the theory of Lisa, that horses need to have live food, especially those who are not on pasture. She just uses vegetables instead of sprouts. But you can also start sprouting your own seeds. I also still feed microorganisms, about a quarter a cup per horse per day. We free feed kelp, and we have free choice Himalayan salt available. What we have here on the slide is some electrolytes that I have in a free choice feeder. I just had them left over, and if they are not gone in the next month or so, I'm just going to throw them away, because the horses are hardly touching them. Then we have some sulfur powder. We have here some cinnamon with nettle leaves, and this came up in an earlier discussion. There is no rhyme or reason why I put the nettle leaves in the cinnamon powder. I just didn't have another feeder. And I put them together and thought, well, you eat them or the same thing happens that's going to happen to the electrolytes. I'm just going to throw them out. The horses have true free choice. This down here is Himalayan salt blocks, which you can see are licked on. And this is Himalayan ground salt. They didn't touch this one here. I have another feeder, flat feeder, sitting on the ground in another area of the barn, and they frequent this a lot. This here doesn't go well, I don't know why. I also have now, and I don't have a picture of this, just recently turned to putting the mineral supplement that we feed out free choice. And they actually do not take huge advantage of it. What I find very important is that when you feed minerals free choice, make sure they are plain minerals and don't have something in them that makes the horse want to eat the whole thing. I've fed for years Rush Creek minerals from ABC Plus, and I know Betsy is on the call and she fed them too. And later on I woke up and realized they have wheat middlings in. And wheat middlings, the horses just ate them like candy. And I never could keep them replenished enough. They were going after them like crazy. So make sure that your minerals do not have anything in them that makes the horses eat them. Beside what we are feeding, free choice hay and everything I've mentioned, we have our 2 large horses, 2 ponies, and a miniature cow on 17 acres of very green grass. I take that into consideration. The ponies only get the avocado and have free choice minerals. They do not get anything else. And they are plump enough as it is. So, and then I have here at the very end a slide, and I leave this up while we're going through the question and answers of nutrition consultants. These were the ones that I found. Carol Layton in Australia has a wealth of information on her website. It's thebalancedhorse.com or something like this. Just Google Carol Layton. Dr. Mihalik in California does very detailed nutrition programs, and Dr. Callan in Kentucky has a nutrition course and also does individual nutrition consultations. So, and I'm sure there are more out there. There's also a program out there named Feed XL, I think, and you have to Google this. And this FeedXL program lets you plug in all the feedstuffs that you feed and then gives you a nutrition readout. But it also, again, requires that you have your hay analyzed or your pasture analyzed, because otherwise you can't plug that in. You have to plug in all the details about that. And then it's a very inexpensive program that you can utilize to really balance your feed rations without having to do all the math. When you call one of those consultants, they will do the math for you. But again, they most likely will require from you to have a feed analysis of your hay. So, and with this, we're gonna go without further ado to questions and answers. Please raise your hand so I can unmute you if you have any questions. April, what do you think?
It's a lot to digest, if you will.
Yeah.
I don't know that I could do everything, but I'm thinking of some ways that I could improve some things slowly.
Yeah. Start somewhere. So kind of like your own diet. Replace one unhealthy food with one healthy food a week, and then next week you replace another one. That's one way to do it. Okay. And Candy asks, how many sweet potatoes, carrots, apples, avocados, and pears do you feed each horse per day? Well, Candy, what I do and what you should do are two different things. But in general, my big horses, the midgets get nothing, but the big horses get so about around a half a 5-gallon bucket a day. So in the winter time. Right now they get much less because they have so much grass. And my horses are not doing anything. They are pasture potatoes, pasture ornaments. So, but a horse that you ride, a horse that you do something with, about half a bucket a day. And how you manage this, I mean, certainly not more apples than carrots and sweet potatoes. And my horses get between half an avocado and an avocado a day. So at the moment, the math goes out that I feed one avocado to the big ones, and then the little ones share one. So I need 3 a day. But you have to kind of see what the market has. And I buy jumbo sweet potatoes, so they're huge sometimes, close to small football. And so I divide one between them. We have gone from grain bins to now having refrigerators in the feed room. It's rather interesting. I hope that answers your question. That's the closest I can give you an answer. Betsy, penny for your thought. No, Betsy. Capri. Did I lose everyone on sound? Let's try Denise. Denise?
Yeah, hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, very well.
Good. Good. It's been very interesting. I didn't even know horses would eat things like sweet potatoes or kale or a lot of that stuff that you said. So I think I shall be starting to introduce a few of those things, and it'll be very interesting just to see if how they, if they're interested in eating it. I guess that they would be.
Well, I can tell you that in the beginning, if you start something like kale, don't put a whole bunch of it in. The carrots usually go easy, the sweet potatoes go easy. The kale I would introduce, as you said. Start a little bit. Start everything that's a little strange to them, like zucchini are not, they are an acquired taste. Some horses even sort through the avocados. If you get organic bananas, you can feed them with the peeling. I found this out when I religiously peeled all my bananas, and then I threw the leftovers on the manure spreader, and found my horses then going through the manure spreader and eating the peelings. So, they were my poor homeless horses that are going through the garbage bin. Unfortunately, this is what they did. So, but absolutely, introduce it slowly. It works.
Yeah, and really I just think the whole nutritional thing for the average person is it's just something that we don't understand unless you certainly put a whole lot of time into reading an awful lot. And for myself, I think I'll just be getting in touch with Carol Layton and getting her to work it out.
That's why I put Carol up there, and please tell her that I've spoke highly of her. She has a lot to give, and this is this is a little bit like trimming. There are some people out there that don't have a whole lot of education, and they trim and they're doing a decent job and their horses look good. But if something goes haywire, they don't know what to do. And if you have horses that in generally are healthy, they don't seem to have any troubles, they don't have rain rot, they don't have sweet itch, they don't have funny crud somewhere, not in the ear, not between the hind legs, nothing. And your feed program is reasonably solid. You may just be doing the right thing, but it's a gamble. And that gamble goes out the window the moment that you have to call a veterinarian. And then you regret that you didn't take care of this a little bit earlier in a much better way, because it's expensive. The veterinarian becomes expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I just liked your, I sort of picked up on what you said, just like if it comes in a bag, then it ain't good. That's really said a lot to myself personally, because I just go down and I buy my usual bag of feed, and I come away and I feed it to my horses and I'm happy. They eat it and I'm happy.
Sure.
And now, now I'm thinking, oh, okay, I've got to change things. So I will be. I'll be looking into it. Thank you very much.
You give your kids a lot of candy and they will ask for more.
Yeah.
They don't know about nutrition, and neither do the horses. We have to be better stewards of them. And let me tell you, it is a huge undertaking. This feeding of animals that can't say I have a belly ache, or I don't feel so good, or this didn't taste good, or what have you. This is difficult, but if you look a little bit into what humans should eat, just go on the internet and Google it. What you should eat for optimum health. It's pretty similar to that. Raw vegetables and fruits. Yeah, it is not such a big difference. And it's all based on you have to eat live food to produce live cells, to produce really good cells. This is very important.
Right.
Okay?
Yes, thank you
So,
very much.
little by little make some changes, and maybe keep a little bit of journal about it, and then tell the rest of the world about it. Publish an
I
article.
will. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah? Okay, thank you, Denise. So, Mary Augustine says, a lot has been said about beet pulp. How do you feel about it? Ugh. We feed bunches of fruit, veggies, mostly watermelon, carrots, and apples. Also kelp, rose hips, and flax seeds. Mary, that's the same like I just said. You feed all the right stuff, and it's still a shot in the dark. If you don't get analysis of your hay and your pasture, and your horses look good, and they feel good, and they perform well, and the feet are good. Good feet have no white line separation. They have no thrush. All these things don't exist. Everything is just wonderful. Then keep doing what you were doing. But if you have any problems, don't look, oh, I need to trim this differently. That's not necessarily it. I'm not saying the trim isn't important. Please don't get me wrong. But nutrition is so important. And when you can't fix certain things, then you have to look into nutrition. And how do I feel about beet pulp? I don't know if you heard the noise I made. Beet pulp is a byproduct of the sugar industry. And it is washed out with chemicals. And it is certainly not horse feed. Not good feed. I would not anymore, it's not that I never fed beet pulp. I did all of the bad things in the past. I did them all for you, so you don't have to repeat it. I fed beet pulp, but I wouldn't feed it anymore. It does not cross my horse's feed table. Hope that answers your question. And Candy says another question. My neighbor's horse is eating the other horse's manure. Any comments why this would be? Is she possibly lacking something? No, she is definitely lacking something. And that is minerals. There are some minerals that are excreted through the manure that this horse is eating. That is really, really important to get this horse that's eating manure on a nutritionally sound program. That is not normal behavior. And April has a question.
What about apricots?
Fine. Wouldn't feed them with the seeds because they can't really crunch them down, but take the seed out. They probably take the seed out themselves. So.
And when you're talking about fresh water, if I redirect them to my pond, there's 3 ponds in our system. The neighbor's cows drink out of the one that drains into my pond, and my pond drains into the other neighbor's pond, and his horse drinks out of it. Do I need to get that water checked?
Yeah, getting water checked is always good. If the cows drink out of the upper pond, cows don't just drink out of the pond. Neither do horses. They poop in the water too, and they pee in the water. Just like little children, same deal. So getting your water checked is not a bad idea. It's rather inexpensive to take a bottle of water to DHEC, Department of Health and Environmental Control, and get it checked. If you have somebody in the family that's over 60 or 65, it's free. Does that answer it?
Yep, thank you.
You're welcome. Rosemary, you have a question?
Yeah, I have a question, but first of all, I just wanted to say, I think summarizing the whole nutrition with the horses, when it became quite clear to me, is realizing that they have an alkaline system and not an acid system. So,
Yeah, so do we.
yeah, so do we. I figured that out after I figured out the horses. Um, and I just wanted to say, I don't know if this is happening down in the States, but it's happening in Canada, and it absolutely horrifies me. But our bags of grain or feed, they're not putting the ingredients on it, so you have no idea, and then you'll phone the company and they won't divulge the ingredients necessarily because it is their own secret.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, and so
Uh-huh.
people are feeding these bags of grain and or feed, and they have no idea what they're feeding their horses, and this gets so scary, particularly when you have Purina in there making horse feeds. Anyways, that's just what I wanted to say. But herbs, now this has me very intrigued, growing herbs along the fence line. So what would be hardy ones that you could grow? And I guess you would sort of do a little variety, but which ones would you recommend?
Oh, Rosemary, I think you are just going to be the perfect project manager for that.
Yep. Well,
You're
we
gonna,
experiment.
you're just gonna grow some herbs, whatever it is. You use some for your own garden if the horses don't get to it first, and you use some for, you let the horses eat them. One thing that we think not of as an herb, but that is actually very good for horses, are stinging nettles.
Oh, okay.
And you may want to confine them a little bit, so they don't take over.
Okay. right.
But you can plant all kind of stuff, and as I said, the reason why you plant it on the fence line is that you don't mow it down. You know, when
Yeah, well,
you
I
mow
have
your
a,
pasture out.
yeah, well, I have a very large grass paddock. I call it my pasture, but so I manage it. I shut it down for certain times of the year, so that would give me an opportunity to grow some things in there.
Yeah, and it should be a permanent patch, you know. It should be something that you can monitor, where you exactly know where what is, and maybe you have to make a little diagram, and the stuff most to the left is this, and the stuff in the middle is this, and just let us know how it's going. That would be
Yes, I
interesting.
like that.
Rosemary has a new job. She didn't have enough to
Yes.
do yet.
Oh, yes. Now I have to go plant a garden for the horses.
Excellent.
Well, I've got lots of great manure to do it with.
Yeah, yeah. Be careful. We planted this year a vegetable garden in solely in composted manure, and even so, it was composted for quite a while. Holy smokes, did the stuff take off, and we got more green than we got vegetables
Okay.
because it was too rich. Next
Yeah.
year we have to mix a little bit more dirt in. So the same with the herbs. I think they will do just well in regular soil with a little bit of manure mixed in.
Okay, thank you.
Okay? Thank you,
Okay.
Rosemary. Um, Sandy asked, what is the connection of nutrition to thrush? If you have a opportunistic organism in the system like Candida, because you feed too much sugar, thrush thrives on this. And thrush does not just come from the outside because the frog gets choked off through too high bars, as we have learned. Sandy comes from the same school I come from. It also comes from the inside out. And Overland in Sweden has made huge studies about this and dissected tons of hoofs where he's showing that horses that eventually grow high heels and therefore founder in the future start out with thrush, and how this happens is they are on the wrong diet, they get the thrush first, then they don't want to step on that painful heel because it goes all the way into the corium, and then they grow high heels because of the thrush, and then they founder. So he explains it that way around, and he's really big on thrush, and it comes from too much sugar in the diet, and he is adamant not to feed the horses anything that has sugar in it, not even carrots as treats. He says they don't need it, and he is in rather cold climate in Sweden, so and is really into nutrition. If any of you can catch one of his seminars, they are mostly about hoof care, but he also talks half a day about nutrition. Very good. I thought it was very well presented. I went last year in July in Texas, was one seminar. There's one in Texas again this year, and go to the Swedish Hoof School website and you see his schedule of clinics. Anything else? That will do. Thank you very much for coming, everybody. I appreciate your participation, and I wish you a good evening or a great day for my fellow Australians, and I see you next week when we talk about conformation and I think trimming of a crooked foot. So more of the same to come. Thank you very much and good night.